This video was brought to you by DecoNetwork. DecoNetwork software is designed for the apparel decoration industry to keep staff and equipment running smoothly. Learn more at DecoNetwork.com.
Hi and hello, and welcome to another episode of Let's Get Printing. I'm your host, Zach Dewhurst, and today my guest is Brandon Mills of Total Promotion Company. How are you today, Brandon?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing, Zach?
Great. Well, we have coming up here next month the Impressions Trade Show, formerly known as the ISS. And our episode today is all about how to attend a custom decoration industry trade show like the Impressions or PPAI, SGIA, Graphics X Pro, White Label Expo. There's a ton of different shows out there. But when you attend a show, you know, it's free to attend to get into the building, but actually traveling and staying overnight and XYZ, you want to make sure you're getting your ROI from attending the show. There's a lot you can learn, and you don't want to, miss out on an opportunity. What they always taught us in business school is the number one cost in a business is opportunity cost. And if you're going to spend the time to go to a show, you want to make sure you attend it as prepared as possible and have a game plan so that it's the best experience possible for you and whoever's going with you. Brandon, you're going to the Impressions show next month, aren't you?
Yes, me and a few people from my team here, we're going to be going and we're going to be driving over there. It's a short 4-hour drive from Las Vegas, and we're going to be staying at a hotel and making kind of a vacation slash work trip out of it, the whole thing.
Yeah, what I always tell everybody is if you can bring some team members, it's a great team building experience and it'll get everyone excited. I mean, trade shows are exciting, but traveling 4 hours with everybody, that takes some time. I'm in Ohio. I'm not driving to Las Vegas, or not Las Vegas. I'm not driving to Long Beach. Got to fly. And for those of you who don't know, the Impression Show in Long Beach is known within our industry as the trade show. I mean, you're going to see more vendors at that show exhibiting their businesses than any other show throughout the year. We're coming off of a couple of years of COVID-19 and all the repercussions. So it's still a very large show. Maybe there's 10 or so % less vendors, but it's still very exciting. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot of new processes, products, and so forth that you probably have never seen or looked at. So first thing I want to kind of point out is, why attend a trade show? Well, the trade shows are a tremendous learning experience. It's just a hands-on opportunity to network with vendors, other people in the industry, take advantage of equipment sales. I mean, there's so many reasons to attend a show and really no reason not to other than if you can't justify the cost. Brandon, how many shows, I know you've only been in the industry for a few years, but if you can attend a show, you always try to, don't you?
Yeah, I live in Las Vegas, which gives me a unique opportunity to have lots of trade shows from lots of different industries come almost weekly. There's always something going on here, and I try to hit the big ones when I can. The most recent one I went to was SEMA, the car and automotive industry trade show. And every time I go to trade shows, I'm looking for that niche market. I'm looking for particular customers. I'm looking to network and just kind of learn what other people are doing in other industries. I guess the only real industry show that I attended before, between the purchase of my business and lockdowns, was the PPAI show that was early 2020. I think it was January. And I gained so much value from seeing that, especially being new to the industry. I purchased my business 2 years ago this month, and then 3 months later we were in lockdowns, and so that closed down a lot of the trade shows and a lot of the expos that were going on. And so I had to come up with different ways of getting business, especially being new to the industry and not having those network opportunities to learn. There's a lot of the online type stuff that people were trying to do, but I didn't find as much value in those as being in actual attendance to a show.
Yeah, I can imagine if your business revolves around vehicle wraps, attending a car show like one of those would be a great place to drum up some business. So I think you bring up a great point that, hey, a lot of us live close to trade show, where they host trade shows, and sometimes that's a great place to drum up some business, because our industry trade shows are typically in very certain locations. Every year again, the ISS is or the Impressions show now is in Long Beach, and they have a few others that aren't as big. I mean, there's still nice shows. And then you being in Vegas, I know they have some very large shows. And just to give you guys an overview, like the PPAI, SGIA, they're not necessarily as apparel focused. They're definitely in the custom decoration industry, but the Impressions has always been known as kind of the apparel decoration. There is things outside of apparel, but if you're focused on screen embroidery and digital apparel printing, this is the show to attend. And then you've got other smaller shows like White Label Expo and Graphic X Pro, which I believe was the MBM show. All these shows have started renaming themselves and whatnot. But the point is, you attend a trade show, you're going to come away with a lot more than the amount of time it took you to attend. Just make sure you can justify the cost. I think the longest I drove was to North Carolina, because it was a big show, and that was like 10 years ago. And then after that show, I bought my DTG equipment because I saw it, I loved it, and that's the way I went. And that brings us to our next section, which is what to expect at a custom decoration industry show. Because when you walk into a exhibit hall, and there are hundreds of exhibitors, all their booths, and it's a lot of salesmen. Talking to you, it can be very overwhelming at first. So, I've been in the industry for over a decade now. Brandon has a nice viewpoint from being kind of newer to the industry. So, there's a lot of things that I have learned over the years from attending the show. So I have different goals when I attend the Impressions versus Brandon is going to have specific things that he wants to hit. So, Brandon, what is your strategy this year as you're attending the Impressions show?
Something I'm going to be doing this time that I haven't really done much at other shows is the seminars. For the ISS show coming up in Long Beach, I went with the all-inclusive package, so I could try to hit as many different seminars as possible to try to gain information and just try to learn what's new, what's out there, what processes are being done to try to stay on the cutting edge of what's happening within our industry, so that I can remain competitive and be able to offer the best product to my customers.
And what Brandon is referring to is at most of the trade shows, they offer classes and seminars where there are experts in a specific area of the decoration industry. And for something around 45 minutes to maybe a couple hours, they're going to give you a lot of valuable information and insight or demonstrations on how a particular process works or how to apply a new marketing or business model. And again, they can be very, very helpful to attend. And we'll talk more about them later in this episode. But what Brandon did mention there, though, is if you do decide to attend the classes and the seminars, do know that to attend just a couple is virtually almost the same price as to attend all of them. the difference in cost is not that much. So sometimes you just want to play it by ear, and you could say, I want as many as I want. You can, sign up for all of them. And if you don't make one, you don't make it. And often they have the same courses on just different days. So we'll talk more about the classes, but it is definitely a large part of attending the show. And that is actually the most expensive part of, that's really the only thing I can think of as far as what costs to attend the show at the show. Sometimes if you don't register ahead of time, they will charge you at the door to get in. So whenever you're going to attend a show, sign up early, and do know that those classes do get more expensive as time goes on. The earlier you sign up for a show, the less expensive it is.
Another thing as well is a lot of these shows, especially this one, will have classes that are concurrent. So there's several different seminars going on at one time, and so I prioritize based on what I want to learn, and then I make my selection from there. There's people on my team that will be going to different ones at the same time because it's more relevant to them, and so therefore we can divide and conquer and try to get the most out of it.
That reminds me of signing up for college classes and how chaotic that was to make sure your schedule was never overlapping. Some other things you can expect at the show, other than attending some classes, is there's going to be equipment buying opportunities. You're going to see a lot of equipment being demonstrated, and the sales reps and vendors at the show, they want to sell equipment. They make a lot of money off of it. So they are often running promotions where it will be, cheaper if you buy it that weekend, and they often will even have finance individuals there at the show to help you even finance the actual equipment. And also know that a lot of these vendors don't want to haul the equipment back to the next show or wherever they has to go. So they will also unload floor models at a very low price. So at once the show's over, you come by and you grab the equipment that was demoed the last 3 days at a big discount. So do know that there's all types of those equipment buying opportunities. I wouldn't buy, I guess what I'm saying is I really wouldn't buy too much equipment a month leading up before a show that I would attend, because odds are you're going to be able to buy it at a lower price in person. And that's not to say you have to haul it back with you, but because you attended the show, they often will give you some type of discount or just bonus.
If you are driving to the show and you're able to haul back equipment with you, a lot of these vendors they'll sell their demo models that they've been using during the show at the end of the show, because they'll sell it at cost, because the amount of money it will take to ship it back is oftentimes more than what they would make on it anyway.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of opportunity there.
Absolutely. And what I also suggest is, if possible, reach out to the vendor or exhibitor beforehand if you have something in mind like that, because their goal is to unload it, but this impression show will have a ton of people, and somebody's going to buy quite a bit of the different individual pieces of equipment. So if you can, ahead of time, reach out to the vendor and see if they're going to have it available and what they would charge, because sometimes you would think it should be at cost, and it often will be, but that doesn't always mean don't just take advantage of a sale, because
Right.
you don't know what's going to be also there too. So lots to think about there, but yeah.
If you haven't done your research too, going in, knowing the equipment that you want to see, people are going to try to sell you the world, promise you the moon, and you'll end up with a piece of equipment that maybe you didn't need, or maybe you thought was something else. And so you want to go in knowing already that you looking at equipment that you've already been researching before you go, and look for those models. There might be something that you come across, that you didn't know about that does make sense, but you definitely want to make sure that you do your due diligence and make sure that you're getting what you're wanting.
Yep. Here's my tip to anybody: if they can get their hands on a Hotronix Fusion IQ heat press or an air fusion. They're the #1 selling heat presses. They're manufactured in Pennsylvania. Stalls makes a hell of a product. It's the Hotronics. Um, the reason I'm saying this is, one, heat presses are very heavy and they don't like having to ship them. So they're always trying to load them. But right now with Fusion, it's got an 8-week lead time. You could place an order and it's going to be 2 months before you can get it. If you can get a heat press that's been used for a weekend at a 20% or more discount, definitely jump all over that, especially a heat press, because those heat presses are built to last for 30 years and their warranty is the same. So that's a big one for me right now is because of COVID, some of this piece of equipment, they're hard to get. And the stalls, heat presses, you're going to see tons of Hotronics at different booths. And they may not want to sell them because of how difficult it is. They might rather just pay the shipping unless they bought a whole lot ahead of time. But I'm a stalls dealer, and I can tell you, if I go to a trade show, they will sell me the product at the lowest price that I can ever get it, because they want me to demo it and show it off and encourage me to unload it. So big tip right here. Look for Hotronics heat presses. If you're in the market for one, you're gonna get a heck of a deal. It's barely gonna have any use, and you just can't get your hands on them. Something
I
else
will,
you can expect. Go ahead, Brandon.
yeah, I'm definitely going to take advantage of that too, because we were looking into expanding our quantity of heat presses. We're finding that we're having some bottlenecks in production because of heat presses. So
Well,
I wrote that down while you were saying it, and I'm gonna take that advice and go check those out as well.
heat press is it's a piece of equipment that hasn't changed in a long time, and I love the Hotronics for many reasons. Again, it's a really well American-made product. If you have problems with it, it's so easy to contact them. I've never had problems. I've put too much torque on my press and I've broken it, and I've taken it to Pennsylvania and they did everything for me and more for free. So I can't speak high enough on them. Oh, they're also going to be going up tremendously in price in January. I do know that their pricing is going up. Um, but the thing about a heat press though is it's not going to go out of date. You know, digital printing equipment like DTG and wide form, I mean, anything with a computer chip in it is going to age. Now there is a computer chip actually in the Hotronics, which is in all other heat presses, but I'm telling you that they're not going to be, that thing isn't going to be revolutionized anytime soon. Look at the Hotronic presses. You will see you'll see a lot of things. So definitely a tip there for you. You can also expect to be able to take advantage of a lot of samples. I screen print, DTG, embroider, sublimate, getting into DTF. I mean, I do it all. And as far as samples go, if somebody wants to throw me a free sample, and as long as it's not going to be a problem to get on the plane, yeah, I'll take it. I'm kind of bad like that. I'm the one who loves promo products, and if you've got a pen on the corner, I'll talk you at least to earn the pen, but I want the pen. So do know that you can get a lot of samples for pretty much nothing, or virtually nothing, and take it back and try it out. I don't think someone's going to sell you a mini bag of DTG ink or things like that, but maybe if you're into sublimation, you might be able to get some samples of things to sublimate with for like at cost, something very small. So they're always trying to entice you to try their product and gain their trust, to build a relationship. And
One
then
of the I'm sorry. One of the advantages to having those samples as well is if it's not a process that you currently have, it obviously becomes one, especially when you're going through one of these new vendors. But it's something that you can show your customers, and it's something that can be replicated for them for their needs. And so having samples, other than just for yourself, it's for your customers to show what you are able to do, what your capabilities are.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to see, one thing that they're often doing is they're screen printing and they're wanting to show the speed of an automatic screen printer. So they'll pump out thousands of shirts an hour, or hundreds of shirts an hour, I should say, thousands a day. and they're just handing them out. And if you want to show someone, hey, we don't do this, or you could show your team, hey, we may not do this now, but this is what we're going to do. Samples, they're not going to do you anything bad. If you see a sample and they're pushing you to take one or whatever, grab it. The worst thing you're going to do is put it in the corner or pitch it. And I'm not encouraging everybody to get a bunch of stuff then throw it away later, but it's an opportunity. If samples cost money to ship to you, if you're there in person and it's there, it's going to be cheaper to just try it. And that brings me to our last point on what to expect. And that's the ability to compare a lot of different brands against one another. And that will be equipment, that'll be supplies, that'll be, everything. Anything you could potentially be spending money on, there is probably going to be 5 other vendors or so that do the same thing. So keep that in mind, that you're gonna, don't fall in love with the first, version of a piece of equipment you see and say, I have to buy that. That's the way I'm gonna go. No, you really want to make sure that you've looked everywhere and you've compared what you're going to get in the value. And when I say value, that's the correlation between price and quality. Are you getting the value there, or does it make sense to go a different route or think about it and then come back to it? So, again, the show, when you attend the show, you're going to be hyped up. You're going to be in an atmosphere with a lot of energy. Don't be making the mistake of buying equipment or making big investments into things just because you're kind of caught up in the moment. So that kind of leads us into the next section, which are our tips of when attending the show. So a couple that we just hit that I just want to kind of re-mention is, one, make sure that you walk the entire floor and you're not spending, you're not making big commitments until you have taken the time to look at everything. Because there's a ton of vendors you probably never heard of that might be doing exactly what you're looking for. They just have never conveyed it to you until you've walked by their booth. So I always encourage everyone to, at least when I attend a show, I'm going from the far left, I read left to right, and I'm going to hit every single aisle. And I am not going to really buy anything until I've seen everything. And not to say that a show is all about buying stuff, but it is I want to get a feel of everything, and then I come back to the specific vendors and exhibitors to really focus on some other things and get into some more detail. But I want to get an overview of the show, get a feeling of who all's there, what is being shown, and then I can backtrack. The impression show, for example, it's 3 days long. And I'll tell you what, if you attend that show, it will take you all 3 days to get around the whole rooms, because it's more than one room. And really, you will be there all 3 days if you want to get your money's worth of traveling to there. Some people can do it kind of quicker, but it's an event, especially that impression show. And like the tip Brandon made is, when you're attending the classes, he made a great point. Make sure that the people who are attending the classes on your team, that class makes sense for them. And which, again, that sounds like common sense, but you don't want to spend too much time at classes if they're not relevant. Every moment you're spending in a class, you're not walking the floor. And a lot of the same information being taught in the class is also taught in the floor. I'm not trying to say the classes are not the way to go, but I definitely think it is a mistake if you don't walk the whole exhibit hall at minimum. That needs to be, I would always make that priority one, and then I will attend the classes that make sense. And I'm not saying it needs to go in that order. Just make sure you hit the whole room. And I want everybody on my team to hit the whole room, because You never know. I mean, their light bulbs will go off when you are seeing these exhibits and talking with the vendors, and just learning so much about the custom decoration industry as a whole. Because they're, everything from apparel to signage to promotion. I mean, everything that can be decorated in our industry is going to be, able to be seen at a big show like the Impressions. Another tip that I have, Brandon, is bring a backpack. I cannot stress enough that there is nothing easier to wear or have with you that you can carry a ton of literature, because people, you're gonna have booklets. You could make a book from all the literature that you're gonna get. At least you should be grabbing, because you're gonna have so much coming on, and you're gonna have so many conversations. A lot of things are gonna be kind of forgotten. You want to make sure you have the literature, and on your way home, that's your entertainment. You're going back through the literature, and you're reminding yourself, okay, I need to follow up with this person and so forth. But you're going to grab so much literature. You don't want to be carrying that in your hands. I don't care if a messenger backpack or a tote bag looks, better to carry around. I cannot stress enough, bring a backpack. You'd be amazed how much stuff you can get on there, and your back can support all that much better than anything else. That's a big tip. I cannot stress it enough. And my last tip, Brandon, is look at the future and don't invest in the past. And I don't want to put down any decoration process. I've always told everyone every decoration process has a time and a place, and I do virtually all of them. But a big thing I know that is going to be demoed at the show that is newer to our industry is direct to film, also known as DTF. And direct to film it's new. I mean, it's a newer process. It has been going on in China for a while. The big manufacturers like Brother, Roland, Epson, they aren't manufacturing equipment yet. But most of the DTF printers that you can buy are using Epson print heads, which is the bulk of the machine. So you will see multiple vendors at the show demonstrating direct to film. I cannot stress enough, in my 11 years, I think it is easily the most revolutionary thing to hit the market since DTG. And that was just starting to gain popularity when I got in. But DTF, it is unbelievable. You can get into DTF for less than 15 grand. I'm not saying that DTF is an all-in-one replacement solution for DTG, but personally, if I were looking at DTG or DTF equipment, or if I was looking to invest in DTG, I would definitely look at DTF first, just to look at it. Because I mean, direct to film is printing its own full color transfer. It is a great one-off solution. It's a great bulk solution. The bottleneck of essentially what takes the amount of time, the printer, I can't heat press the transfers as fast as a printer can put them out. So I can completely move my bottleneck. I'm not having to pre-treat. I think direct to film will have a big impact on DTG. I think it's going to have a big impact on vinyl cutting. I think vinyl cutting is going to virtually disappear, other than special materials like glitter and glow in the dark and puff ink. I mean, those definitely will remain, but cutting names will be a thing of a past before long, because it's just too easy to click print and not have to weed and have it be cheaper and perform as good, if not better. I mean, so you're going to see a lot of direct to film. I'm not saying that the process is completely perfected yet, but what I'm really trying to stress is don't be pulling the trigger on a $30,000 DTG investment until you've checked out this thing DTF. I wouldn't. I know that they're going to have, Oki laser printers where you can print a white toner full color transfer, but do know that for a couple grand more, through the right vendor, you can get a direct to film printer, which is a true garment transfer printer that does CMYK, and not a laser printer that has been modified to also print t-shirts, or essentially full color transfers. So that's a big tip. Don't be buying I wouldn't be buying any equipment before the show for any process, because you're going to be able to take advantage of sales, and you don't want to invest in the past. Invest in the future. And Brandon and I were talking about this before we started our recording this episode, and that is what can be scary when you're looking at a new piece of a new process is that it's not always been perfected. I grew up in the 90s, and that's when the personal computers were really starting to explode. And then all of a sudden we had laptops everywhere. And you look about any technology, and that's what these CMYK digital processes are. The equipment will get better and it will get cheaper. That is a fact. With all technology, those two things always happen. So do know that, yep.
Quality goes up. Quality goes up. Price goes down. It's a true free market experience where it's definitely focused on the consumer, and it's so competitive. The technology side of it, that you have to be constantly improving your equipment and constantly improving your processes in order to maintain that market share. And so like we were talking about before before we started recording, I've been looking at DTG. I've been outsourcing recently with somebody that has three brother GTXs, and I'm blown away by the quality. I'm loving it. I'm loving what I'm able to do with it. DTF, I was looking into the DTF for a while, and I think it's about time for me to revisit looking into it, because when I was looking at DTF before, I was seeing lots of things, good, bad, and everything else, and everything in between. Same with DTG. A lot of people saying that DTG is dead on arrival, but now the processes are so much faster. The amount of inks are a lot less than it was before, and the quality is superb. But you are limited to having to pre-treat. You're still having to do a lot of other things to get that print just right. Whereas DTF, I'm going to revisit it, because I wasn't completely sold on it, but I'm really interested in attending ISS for the fact of looking at those equipment, because I was on the fence about buying a DTG printer, and a few of the seminars I'm in too are going to be discussing it. I know on one of them is Get Real with DTF, DTG, dye sublimation, and transfers. That's one that's happening. One of the early seminars that's going to be going on. And then there's a few others in here. Like for my purposes, I'm trying to target a lot of those types of classes so I can get a better understanding of exactly what it is. I want to conduct my best due diligence possible, because they aren't small investments. You want to make sure that you get a return on these, and you want to make sure that you can use them for a long time. So in order to do that, everybody's trying to sell what they have. They're all and they're gonna show you the glitter and the shine and the sale, to get that sale. Whereas it might not be the best process for your needs. But I'm really excited to see what is the latest and greatest available next month when we attend.
And in my experience, this isn't always just to say this is how it is, but screen printing has not changed that much as far as how it works. I mean, obviously it has changes over the years, but it's the oldest, the most popular process. A lot of the screen printers who exhibit at the show are often a local screen printer who has that brand of equipment, or someone like that. They're helping at the booth. I'm going to be at DecoNetwork's booth. I really know a lot about DecoNetwork. I'm going to help them. It's the same concept. You want somebody who can give the perspective of the user, and screen printers often run or help run a lot of the booths and print the jobs. The digital printing equipment, the CMYKs that we're talking about, that often change over time. I mean, again, it's technology based. Those often have, in my experience, a lot more sales reps who don't come from within the industry. They come from a sales perspective. So they're not the ones ever who are too much often using the product. And when it comes to DTG, here's my favorite example because I see it every time I attend a trade show. And the cost of DTG, I mean, when I got into DTG 10 years ago, I'm not putting it down. But when I got into DTG, they did it at that show and they still do, but it's gotten the ink cost in DTG has plummeted. I mean, it's nowhere near what it was 10 years ago. The cost per print, the cost per square inch. But what I see at every show is that they will print the largest graphic and they kind of often hide the fact that, oh, that's actually an $8 print. And years ago, that I mean a lot of these prints could cost $8 an ink, or that's the very high end, and they wouldn't tell anybody that. And it's like you kind of need to mention that you're printing. This is a big print. It looks beautiful, yeah, but it's also going to be hard to make money and still try to compete with, Amazon's doing fulfillment. I mean, you got to think about it. So, yeah, you just do know that you're going to have a lot of people. A lot of sales reps act like sales reps. They're going to be motivated to make sales. That's their job. And then you're going to have a lot of vendors who often are there more to be helpful, and a combination of both. So just be aware that you are attending, somewhere where you could be kind of swayed a certain way. And something I often hear, because I introduce a lot of people to DecoNetwork software, have a lot of conversations with a lot of different shop owners. And the big thing I've been hearing more and more is DTG sales reps are selling the equipment as, hey, it does DTG and DTF. And they're not lying. They aren't lying. But just because you can do something doesn't mean that you always should. And I have made some of my own DTF transfers, use my DTG equipment, but it's not what that machine was built to do. It's possible, it is a good solution, but if you judge DTF transfers off of what you have done yourself, trying to do it with a DTG, and you think that's how DTF works as a whole, you're getting a bad impression. And it's the same thing with all of these different pieces of equipment, or suppliers. Brandon mentions, he tested DTF once and he wasn't really sold on it. And then he told me who he bought it from. And then I could pretty much tell him, you didn't actually get a DTF transfer. You got this. So one, you got to make sure that you really know whether you're outsourcing them. Make sure you've actually tried 3 or 4 different suppliers and that they're all the same quality, because one supplier might be using inferior consumables, whether it's ink or film, and this could be for any process that you're outsourcing. So they might be using inferior materials, or the equipment isn't as high of quality. And when you're buying equipment, don't assume that one process is terribly flawed because you've had a bad experience or you've seen a bad experience with a piece of equipment. You've got to try others. I mean, so just do know that often attend the show with an open mind and know that just because one manufacturer didn't do it right doesn't mean that they all do it wrong. Wouldn't you agree, Brandon?
Yeah, there's different processes for different needs. And I guess, in what one thing might do well, it might not do something else, as good. And you might need that other thing that doesn't do. So you definitely want to make sure that you know what you're going to be using it for. For my purposes, I want to have it as versatile as possible for as many possibilities, possible scenarios that come through. That's why I was getting really excited about the DTG, is just because the quality that I've seen is it blows me away with what you can do, because we've been doing screen printing here, and we do simulated process from time to time, and it comes out kind of fuzzy when you're using halftones and things. Whereas with the digital print, you're not going to see a single halftone in there. It's going to be like it's printing on a on any other kind of media that you would digitally. So it definitely expands the capabilities of quality when it comes to having full color using gradients and shoot and be able to use all colors across the spectrum as well. Whereas you're limited to however many screens you can have, and which takes more time as well. Like we've got several 6 head 4 stations that they are limited, and so I really love that with the digital printing we can expand our capabilities and serve some of the needs of our clients that need something a little bit more crisp, a little bit better resolution, things like that.
And what we'll conclude with this like last tip, and you're essentially saying this, Brandon, and that is it is important to always remember that each decoration process has its own time and place. And what we've been talking about the last 5 to 10 minutes has been these digital printing processes to choose from. And why I think it's so important is the digital printing processes technology are the ones that change the fastest. Embroidery, screen printing, yes, there are better updates to equipment, but they are not as drastic as the digital printing processes. Nowhere close. Because again, the machine itself is not based solely around most of the technology that makes the detail and so forth. But what we're pointing out is each process has a time and place. Yes, you could use DTG to fulfill screen print orders, but it's not, if I have to do a 200 one color white prints, I don't want to use a DTG machine. The DTG is built more for full color printing. The analogy I always like to use is, look at a dinner utensils. You could have a spoon, you could have a fork, you could have a knife. Technically, I could eat applesauce with a fork, but the spoon is going to be an easier, better tool. And that's how you should look at it. You could cut, you can't really cut steak with the spoon, but you could get it to the point that you could feed yourself with the spoon. So just know that each process has a time and a place, and try to stick away. I guess my last tip would be I'm not a big fan of vendors who trash a different process unless it's pretty much inferior. I'm not going to go into what I think is inferior and a bad idea, but the screen printers that say DTG's garbage, that's a bad person to ever take advice from, in my opinion, because they're giving you a very limited perspective. Each process has a time and place, and don't judge each one too quickly. Take the time to meet with others who are selling that process, or those who actually have used it. The people I like to talk with the most are the ones that actually are like me. They're actually attending the show to learn more about what's going on and making decisions. And anybody who can say, hey, I bought one of these 6 months ago and I absolutely love it and XYZ, that's the person I want to talk to a little bit more than the person who is paid to sell the equipment and never works in an actual shop. The shop people are the ones who can have that similar perspective with you.
I like your spoon and fork analogy. That's brilliant. I think what I want to find in a piece of equipment is the spork.
Yes,
that can do
exactly. Both. And that's why, Brandon, that's what I think DTF is. In my opinion, that's the spork. And our industry is a combination of mom and pops and larger businesses and so forth. And again, you don't want to invest in technology that's about to go south or about to greatly be improved and become cheaper at the same time. And with DTF, and this last tip we'll talk about it, is you're going to see a lot of larger wide format printers essentially that print 24 to 48 inch wide film. And they're going to be a lot more than some of the smaller printers. And from all the conversations I've had, and I've talked with a lot of different people, and one of our earlier podcasts, we had Jay Wilson of All DTG, who also owns Color Transfers. If you ever need any information, he's going to be at the show demoing. I cannot suggest enough checking out Jay's booth. I'm not exactly sure what, he's going to be in the very back right corner. So the exhibit hall is going to have 90%, 95% of the exhibitors are going to be in the main area. Then you walk through and there's kind of like a corridor middle section, and that's Ryonet. And that's screen printing, screenprinting.com. Ryonet is a credible company if you've ever not looked at them, but I really like, I don't really buy from them very often, but I really like them as a company and what they represent and so forth. But they have a big section. And then beyond that, there is like a networking section slash innovation. And that's where I know Jay Wilson will be. And Jay is a DecoNetwork user. Not that that means anything if you're looking at buying equipment, but I really suggest talking with him. He's going to be demonstrating an A3 printer along with other bigger printers. And in my opinion with the DTF is don't buy one of the bigger printers at the moment unless you are going to be pumping out stuff immediately, big time, because those printers are going to quickly be, they're going to keep revolutionizing them. What they will, and then they also have, I don't think Jay's selling any of these, but there are desktop printers. And from what I can, a desktop version is more of an existing Epson printer that has had its inks swapped out to be more of a DTF printer. And the true desktops, I've heard more bad things than good because they're just, it's trying to make a machine that wasn't specifically built to do that, to do more than it should. Where
those are the things that, oh, I'm sorry. But I think those Epson conversions are what has steered me clear of DTF thus far, because of the problems that I've heard with them regarding maintenance and print clogged print heads and things such as that. Like, so yeah, I'm excited to see some of the innovation that has happened to DTF in
the one that I would highly suggest a lot of people look at is an A3 printer that they're going to be demonstrating there. And the A3 printer, look at it this way: it's in between the $5,000 desktop that's kind of built to break on you, and then the $20,000, $30,000 machine that's about to keep being revolutionized. And then you have this A3 printer in the middle for around 11, 12 grand, depending on, everything. Again, visit alldtg.com if you're interested in learning more. But look at the A3 printer. And in my opinion, that printer is the way to go until a year or so from now, when Epson, Brother, and I'm not saying that they're, you have to go that route. I'm a fan of, I don't like to buy knockoff stuff. I don't like to buy a hacked together Frankenstein machine. That's not what I like. But I'm pretty sure that Epson, Brother, Roland, they're a year or two away before they're going to be releasing these types of printers. It's same thing with DTG. They were not the first to market with DTG, but they put out a very high quality product. I mean, I'm pro all those brands, but DTF for the foreseeable future, you are going to be buying more of a manipulated machine. And from all my conversations with Jay, who I really trust, and he sold a lot of DTF equipment, he is highly suggesting looking at the A3 because it's gonna hold its value a lot better than the others, and it's a good middle machine. I mean, and I jokingly asked him, okay, then in like a year from now, I think I'm going to buy the bigger one. And he told me I would buy more A3s. And, so again, we got to see, but for 11, 12 grand, that DTF printer, I'd like it a lot more than the 20 or so thousand DTG setup. And that's the last thing I'll kind of say about it. Because you know what, you shouldn't just take our word for it. You should go into the show and actually look at it, take some samples home and apply it. You can't just take someone's word for it. You need to see results, and if possible, talk to others at the booth that might have already bought equipment. They're gonna, anybody that I buy stuff from, I want to go see their booth. And I don't mind helping somebody out, giving a peace of mind, like, hey, I have this equipment. This guy sold it to me. He's great to work with. I love it, and so forth. That's who I want to hear from as a as attendee. All right, Jay, next section I want to talk about are the available classes, which we kind of hinted on. When you attend these trade shows, there are classes, seminars, they'll call them a lot of different things. And typically they're around 45 minutes to an hour, 2 hours long. And sometimes they're just, a presentation. Sometimes they're more hands-on. Um, there's a lot that are going on. There's a lot that are going on at the exact same time. And I really like your strategy of you're taking multiple team members and you are having different team members attend different classes. And I think that's a great strategy to get the most out of it. And like you said, I would highly suggest if you're going to attend a seminar, go to that digital printing seminar about sublimation, DTG, and DTF. That one, I don't have time to attend any classes because I'm doing a lot of things at the show, but that is the one I would be the most interested to hear about because I'm sure it'll be interesting. And you leave that class and you may know exactly what route you want to go because they might have a different point than I have, and it points you different direction. So, every business, what I love about the industry is there's so low barriers to entry. Anybody can jump in this industry and compete, and we don't see each other all as competition. We like to help one another. There's plenty of business to go around. No one is really competition. I've never felt that way when talking with other people in the industry, even those located very close to my business. So, the classes provide a lot of great value. Brandon, you're going to be attending a ton, and like I pointed out, the classes to attend like 2 of them versus having unlimited is almost the same price. So they're not always the cheapest thing, but you will get your better value when you kind of are able to sign up for multiple.
The price I believe was $210 for the all access, and some of the classes by themselves were like $75 per. You can do it a la carte if there's if I suppose if there's something that that you gotta go see or a particular speaker that you want to see, and that's the only class, you can do it that way, but for me, being able to have the option to go to all these different seminars, and if it's not working out, if it's something that that I see that isn't really going to be applicable to what I'm doing, I could either skip it and go out onto the showroom floor and network with some people and do it that way. It's all depends on opportunity and what's what is going to be the best priority for my time while I'm there. So if I find myself in a class, I'm just like, this is not it. Discreetly kind of exit and go put myself, where my time is better served.
Yep, because that can be, I mean, that is something I would recommend that if you sign up for too many classes, you will miss the opportunity to see the entire exhibit floor. And I personally think you must stop at every single booth, not stop at every booth, walk by every booth, stop at the ones that definitely make sense. And just make sure you're not shortchanging yourself because I mean, what, maybe 5% of those exhibiting are the ones running the classes and the seminars. Just because someone's not, running a seminar doesn't mean that they're not worth stopping by. That don't think that those are the only people to talk to. So yeah, it is just don't shortchange yourself. Make sure you have the ability to see all the exhibits. And Brandon, you said 210 to have unlimited. Could you change who was able to attend the classes, or do you just got to
Yeah,
pass the
so
badges around, or how does that? I mean, I don't.
no, I registered. So it's kind of a family business that I have. My mother works with me as well, and she focuses on the embroidery side. And so a lot of the classes that are there are for embroidery. So I paid another $210 for her to attend as many embroidery classes as she can,
Okay.
and that way we can develop our techniques and our strategies for creating the best products we can.
Yep. No, that makes complete sense. And again, there's only so much time that you can go, and then again, you're gonna leave the show hyped. and you're going to be re-energized, and you're going to have a lot of fun conversations for the foreseeable future after the show, because you're going to come away with a different perspective on a lot of things. And it's just, again, the impression show itself is very eye-opening. There's several other shows that go on throughout the year, and they are scattered throughout the country. Again, attend any of them that you can. But yeah, just like we've talked about, the technology is always changing. You want to keep up with it, and you never know who you're going to be able to build a relationship with. And that brings us to our next section, which is how to network at the trade show, because that is a big portion of the trade show. And when I say networking, that is with vendors, that's with experts, that's with other decorators in the industry. I really am a firm believer that most decorators don't see each other as competition, more so as a potential business partner. One thing that I've always been a proponent of, and I'm not saying this has to be the case, but most, in my experience, customers like working with the one-stop shop. They like not having to go to one business for embroidery, one for screen printing, one for a one-off. They like being able to go to one business that can fulfill one or thousands of pieces. And you can be that person while only doing one or two processes in-house yourself. A lot of shops, they just do embroidery, they just do screen printing. And Brandon's in his situation, he has not pulled the trigger on the digital printing equipment for one-off yet. He is currently outsourcing it to another shop that has the DTG setup that's perfect. And I bet, Brandon, if they don't do screen printing or embroidery, sometimes they might send you orders, vice versa. So do know that it's hard to build a relationship with someone that is, I'm in Ohio. I can't really work with a business like Brandon's in Nevada unless I'm trying to service people out on the West Coast. But guess what? I'm not that big of a company. I mean, I'm not trying to be custom ink. I'm not trying to do that. Most shops are trying to service their local market, and you will be surprised. You're gonna go to Long Beach or any show, you're going to come in contact with people in your area as well. Or you can talk with vendors who will refer you to other people in your neighboring area. And they'll be able to kind of help you. Hey, if you're looking for a screen printer, I'm also a rep for this company, and I know they offer contract decoration services. And that networking with other decorators, it's not as much, again, to just, hey, fulfillment. It is to get opinions and experiences that they have had with certain vendors or certain processes, and just trying to help you avoid the mistakes, because I've made tons of them, and I love to help people avoid the same ones, because they can be costly if you do something incorrectly. Before you know it, you buy a piece of equipment that doesn't make sense. Yeah, you're and something we talked about, Brandon, right before we started this conversation, is like you are going to see a lot of equipment that is very flashy. Embroidery equipment at the show, in my experience, they don't like to show a lot of single heads. That's not as sexy as a 4 or a 6 head machine. And so they'll push the 4 and 6 heads, and hey, I'm not putting them down, but you need to look at your orders. Are you typically getting 1 to 6 pieces or 1 to 12 pieces, or are you getting 48 to 100 piece orders for embroidery? Because, in my opinion, I would rather have 4 single head machines for a few different reasons. Now, sometimes does the 4 head machine make a lot more? Yeah, it sometimes does. But my average order isn't that. I get a lot of 12-piece embroidery orders. I'd like 1 piece of equipment for my flats, and I'd like 1 piece of equipment for my hats, because embroidery equipment often has more hat-specific equipment. So,
Yeah, we have a flashy 6 head Bairden machine, and it's great. It's great for getting through, the larger orders. We do receive a lot of smaller orders, however, and that can cause some bottlenecks sometimes. So getting single heads is something that we're looking into. We have one, but it's we're having to figure out a way to fix it. We broke it. So,
And,
but
and, and when
but
you're
yeah,
walking,
getting some. Oh, go ahead.
well, when you're walking by that booth, I mean, those sales reps, they love to they want to sell products. And it's
Right.
then what I'm really trying to hint at is talk with others, and get their input. Hey, you have this. A lot of the time, I'm not saying every time, but a lot of the time, you've heard them say, yeah, I went that route, but if I had to do it over again, I would have done this. And that's what we're really kind of, you can learn from others' mistakes and decisions, and make a little bit better educated decision, more so than just taking the word of a vendor. Um,
Absolutely.
and 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 that brings me to that next point, which is when you're networking, there are certain vendors you often have established relationships with, and you're going to take their advice a little bit better, more than a lot of others. I like to
One of
think, go ahead.
one of the things I love about the networking aspect of it, especially when you're going to a trade show and you've been working with people from all over the country, on different things, and you've got your trusted vendors. You know who these people are, but you've never met them in person. It's
Yes,
making that direct face-to-face connection, solidifies that relationship, and it really makes it much more personal. And before you know it, you guys are looking out for each other, and you've developed, even a friendship to where mutually beneficial friendship to where you guys are figuring out ways to best serve your clients.
absolutely. And well, and again, I introduce a lot of people to DecoNetwork software. If you want help molding the software, building a website, I'm one of a couple of guys that Deco really trusts, because I like to think I definitely can provide an ROI, and I like to help my clients. I deal with a lot of people who have 50-person businesses, and I deal with a lot of mom and pops that are getting started. I mean, most of us do start in a garage or a basement. And it is, family owned business. I've definitely been there, started that way and so forth. But those those people who are in the industry and you've built a relationship and you trust, their advice can be really helpful. And there are certain brands where I can't speak highly enough of. Again, I've mentioned Hottronics. If I'm going to buy a heat press, I would, and I'm a vendor of, or dealer of Hottronics, and there's a couple other American-made presses that make great presses, but Hottronics, in my opinion, that is the brand. When it comes to apparel suppliers, you can't judge anybody during COVID. I mean, it's a nightmare. But you have Alpha, you have SNS, you have Sanmar. Um, I use all three every single week. Um, I just have a very close relationship with Sanmar. I love a lot of things about Sanmar, and I try to yeah. You're gonna build relationships. I know that, again, I'm gonna be at the Deco booth. I've helped hundreds of people build websites on DecoNetwork and get familiar with the software. If they're coming by, I'm going to tell them, hey, if you have not checked out this, or this booth, you need to go do so, because I'm in the industry with you, and these are who I think are going to help you grow your business the most, and help you in some way. So yeah, it's a cohesive network. It's funny. A couple years ago, and I'm not holding it hostage to DecoNetwork, but I bought the domain name DecoNetworking, because some people came by the booth and they were like, how do I join the Deco network? Because it's like a network of decorators. And
Right.
the Deco Network Facebook group, if you've not joined it yet, I highly suggest it. The Deco Network Facebook group has a lot of great people sharing a lot of things. Last week I posted, and I wasn't trying to proactively sell anything. I just said, hey, if you ever need someone for digitizing or vectorizing work, I can't suggest this guy high enough. And why I say that is it's $10 whether I could send the worst garbage bitmap, and whether I need it vectorized or digitized, it's gonna be $10.
I'm
And
gonna
call
need
it
that
a
guy's info from you.
and 20 people responded. And there are a lot of people who digitize and vectorize, but I could tell you, I was referred to this guy 2 months ago. I've sent him probably 100, well over 100 pieces of artwork. Next day, same day, I can't speak highly enough. And it's much better to talk to somebody who is working with someone like that than it is to just get an email from one of them and they're constantly saying, everybody thinks they can do it the best, but yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's pretty common sense, take someone's opinion. Um, and yeah, I like to avoid the negativity at the show, though. I like to talk with energetic people who, yeah, again, and yeah, the networking doesn't stop at the show. There are networking opportunities at hotels and cocktail parties, things like that. Don't think that at 5 o'clock it is over. Try to set up relationships and have lunch and dinner with others. And I mean, again, that the show, it's like college. I spent $60,000 on a piece of paper is what I like to tell people. Um, I have my degree and that's great, but the things I love my hands-on experiences as an entrepreneur. There were a lot of things in the classroom. They were telling us this is how it is. And I started my business when I was in college, and I started attending these trade shows and whatnot. And I felt like I was getting a second degree through the hands-on learning. And when you attend a big part of college, what they mention is just, it's not just what you're learning in the classroom, it's what you're learning as a person when you're networking and you're building relationships with others. And I had a lot of fun with friends and classmates in college. But if you go into college thinking that the only thing you're paying for is just to be lectured, you're not going to be happy with your experience. It's the whole thing. And definitely look at the shows as it's classes, it's the exhibit hall, and it's opportunity to network everywhere and outside of the show, in between. And you never know what a 5-minute conversation could lead to. I mean, it can lead to a lot.
The networking aspect of it is part of my favorite. I think that I've had much more ROI on doing that. Just developing genuine connections with people, and through doing so, you're going to come across all sorts of people that can offer, or you can offer them, tremendous value in some way, some way or form that you might not have even realized. And it's and having those connections, even if it's a connection that somebody that can't do anything for you, or you can't do anything for them, they might know 10 other people that can, and through their networks of people, they can link you up with all sorts of different opportunities.
And that's what I'm trying to build. I mean, again, I build websites for everyone across the country, and I would like a map that has, okay, this person does this person does that, and help people connect. Because I'm like, you don't want to work with this guy. I had a lot of problems helping him with his website. This guy's great, and he offers these processes that you don't, and you want to do it. And yeah, but they're just like you said, Brandon. There's nothing like being able to talk to people in person, and being able to do that. And bring some business cards. I would highly suggest, because if you stop by me and you hand me a business card and you're saying, I'm looking for somebody in this area, every person I talk to, they're all wearing a name badge. It's going to say their name, it's going to say where they're from, and sometimes they're looking for someone. And I would love to be the middleman, just helping make connections.
Yep.
And again, if you haven't joined the DecoNetwork Facebook group, you have to be an active user of DecoNetwork. But it is a great place to network and just get some good advice. But attend the trade show. The Impressions is next month. It's going to be a ton of fun. But I don't want to date this podcast episode. Everything we've talked about is relevant to any show that you could attend. You want to get your ROI out of it, go in with a great attitude, experience the entire exhibit hall, do some networking, look into some classes, and you'll have a great experience, and your business will be better off definitely from it. I'd like to thank you, Brandon, for being our guest this episode, and everybody have fun in the next trade show in your area.
I'm really looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Brandon. Have a good one.
All right. Take care. Thanks.